The following is a presentation of the Mat Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast featuring Jeff Upson and Eric Knopsnyder. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
What's going on, wrestling fans? You are now tuned in to the PA Power Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Upson, joined as always by my co-host and good friend, Eric Knopsnyder. Eric, it's been a while for us.
It has been a little while. Glad to be back, ready to talk some wrestling.
What have you been up to these last couple weeks or months?
It's amazing without wrestling going on, it taking as much time as we put into it during the high school and college seasons. A little bit of free time, pick up an odd job here or there, doing some other things with my regular career at the Tribune Democrat in Johnstown. So definitely finding ways to keep busy.
Yeah, I hear that, Eric. Me as well. I mean, it's crazy because it's like the wrestling never stops. It seems like every year it just gets more and more off-season stuff going on, so I feel like I'm always playing catch-up with some of the things going on between Freestyle and Greco, and then you got Flow Nationals and Virginia Beach, all these different things going on, so it's like there's never a dull moment in wrestling.
No, it's not, and I've been fortunate. Some really great guys have come through over the past couple months through Pitt Johnstown to do some clinics there. Some Olympic gold medalists, Olympians, world team members, just great stuff. And we've been able to put out some Technique Tuesday videos up on the site and give you some great advice and some great technique from some of the U.S.'s best wrestlers.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of good feedback on those Technique Tuesdays, having people watch them. If you have a chance, go on and check out the Technique Tuesdays. We've got guys like Kyle Snyder, Frank Molinaro, Keith Gavin, a lot of good guys coming in, including David Taylor as well. So definitely check that out. And Eric, you've been busy just doing other things. I've been busy doing other things. It's kind of interesting because many know that I'm a police officer in the city of Pittsburgh, but a former wrestler, Nick Bonacorsi, he was a standout wrestler for Pitt, the Pitt Panthers. So, Eric, you're obviously biased towards him. But he joined the police department as well, and I had the opportunity to field train him. So I spent 6 weeks with him. So between trying to teach him and guide him to be the best police officer he can be, we talked a ton of wrestling. So, that was very fun. It's just interesting how wrestling comes full circle with our careers and our lives.
Jeff, it's good to know that even though you went to West Virginia, you're surrounding yourself with Pitt people and beginning to see the light.
I'm immersing myself. It's crazy. I live in Pittsburgh. It's funny. I was at Giant Eagle the other day wearing a WVU shirt, and the guy at the cashier said, "You a Mountaineers fan?" I said, "Yeah, I went there." He's like, "Well, I'm from Pitt. I went to Pitt, so have a good day." And he was joking, but it was kind of funny. So. I love it. I love being out here in Pittsburgh, but, I've got my roots back in Harrisburg. So, and everywhere across, just rooting for Pennsylvania wrestling all along. So, and we've had a lot to root for recently.
Yeah, so much going on, as you said, since the high school season ended. It just keeps going all over the place. As you said, Virginia Beach, Akron, just, everybody out there and representing Pennsylvania well.
Yeah, and really kicking it off, we'll look at the results from Akron that came in, and the headline is Gavin Hoffman from Montoursville, two-time PIAA state champion. He recently committed to The Ohio State University. In fact, he did that when he was down in Virginia Beach for the Virginia Duels while he was competing for Bison Legend. And Gavin pulled out the Ohio State hat. And, personally, I think that's a good fit for him. What do you think, Eric?
Oh, it is. I mean, you can see he's now qualified for the world team. Some great footsteps to follow with a guy like Kyle Snyder there. They've obviously got the RTC going very well in Columbus. Just seems like a really good fit for him there.
Having a guy like Colin Moore to train with and learn from. I mean, we saw him in France when we went out to the Junior World Tournament. He's a guy that I think is going to be able to guide him along and mentor Gavin. But I like I said, I think it's a good fit here. I think Tom Ryan got a good one here in Gavin Hoffman. And just based on what I saw this last weekend, I mean, he looked very sharp in his Cadet World Team trials.
Yeah, he did a couple pretty dominant matches there. Well, dominating throughout the tournament, and then beating Ryan Caroli of Malvern Prep in the finals, 8-1 and 7-0.
Yeah, and Caroli's one of those guys, a very accomplished wrestler, two-time national champion. Gavin really went after him. He looked sharp. He looked really in good shape, condition-wise. Never really lost a beat in terms of the folk style season, because he won a Flow Nationals championship, and then he comes out and wins the world team spot. So this will be, I believe, his first international experience in wrestling. We actually are going to have Gavin on the PA Power podcast here in a few moments, but this is a huge step for him. And when we talked to him at the Powerade tournament right before the finals of Powerade this last year, he had mentioned this world team spot and focusing a lot of his energy. He said, obviously I want to win a second state title, but my main objective this year is to qualify for world team. So I thought that was important and very critical for him to come out. He's been focused on this for a long time. It's not like he just registered a week prior and said, yeah, I think I'm going to go try and make a world team. This is something he's been striving for a very long time.
And he was able to get his weight down. He put some time into it, some effort, as you said, thinking about this and kind of watching his weight, getting down to the 187, which is 85 kilos. And you're right. He definitely put time and effort and thought into this, and it was a goal, and he was able to accomplish that. And now he's got much bigger opportunities ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, the sky's the limits for Gavin, and if this was any indication of over the weekend how he's going to perform on the world stage, I'm excited to see how he does, because he's just continually to getting better throughout his career, and there's no doubt he's going to be one of the top seniors in the state come next year. Now, if you look at the rest of the results coming in from the Cadet World Team Trials, there were several Pennsylvania wrestlers who competed. Sammy Sasso came up just short of earning a spot with Gavin Hoffman on the World Team. He had a tough go-around with Ja'Cory Teamer from New York, and this guy's a stud, and my gosh, he really looked sharp against Sasso.
He did. I was a little surprised about that. I thought Sammy might be the favorite there, but Teamer, definitely a tough customer.
Yeah, I mean, everyone said, I think Flo put out something that said, if you saw this coming, you're lying. Everyone had Sammy as a shoo-in almost for this spot, and I'm thinking, I thought there was two things. There was one, how was he going to adjust to that weight cut, because he's came down to 63 kilos, which is 139 pounds. He did wrestle 138 in the Scholastic year, but he had been up to 145 at the Flow Nats. So I didn't, and Sammy's a guy who doesn't necessarily enjoy cutting. Not that anyone enjoys cutting weight, but I know in talking to him, he'd rather wrestle where he's comfortable. But you look at the next weight, it was 69 kilos, which is 152. So I mean, that's a little bit of a stretch going up. But and Teamer is a very good wrestler. I saw him defeat Cole Matthews in the finals of National High School Coach Association Juniors Nationals, and he looked really sharp in that match. And I thought, man, he's pretty tough. So, but I didn't think Sammy was going to get really dominated like he did.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Sammy, you just got to put this behind you and move on. Teamer is good. I think maybe on a different day, Sammy, it's a little bit different. I'm not sure if he beats him, but we'll see. I'm sure they'll face off again here at some point.
Even getting to that point, and that's a huge accomplishment just to be that close to earning a spot on the world team. But I'm sure he will bounce back, sort of like we saw after Flo's Who's Number One when he lost to Nick Lee sort of, didn't put on the performance he wanted to, he was able to bounce back and just tear through everybody. I mean,
that's exactly what I was thinking. We've seen this before with Sammy because he didn't look good in that match. Nick Lee just dominated, but Sammy just completely rebounded from that and looked excellent the whole Scholastic season.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how he comes back from this. I know he's disappointed, but he will persevere through this. So some other big names coming through were Bo Bartlett from Wyoming Seminary. He came in 7th at 58 kilos, which is 127 pounds. This is he was our top incoming freshman from this class year, and he was a national prep champion. He came in 7th. You look at Carter Starocki from Cathedral Prep up in Erie. He was 5th. Now, this is a guy who I thought he had a chance, and he did. 69 kilograms, which is 152 pounds, was a little bit more wide open than some other weights. But Carter was unable to get through there, but he's continuing to get better as well.
Yeah, he had a nice showing during the high school season, and this is definitely something to build on. I mean, if you can go out there to Akron and compete with some of these guys that are the best in the country now, to take 5th out there isn't bad at all, and something to continue to move on from.
Also finishing at that weight was Justin McCoy from Chestnut Ridge, who finished 7th. He was a state champion this last season, which is interesting to me. And when I did a preview article for this, I said he's got to bounce back from. He didn't even win the PAWF states this past couple weeks. He didn't win down in Chambersburg a state title. So I thought, man, maybe he's just had a bad weekend, or maybe he's just his freestyle skills weren't fine tuned yet. Well, he comes in and finishes 7th. At 69 kilograms, which I thought was especially being up at 152, I thought that was a good performance by Justin.
Yeah, he's one that I don't know that he's put a ton of time into freestyle. I believe he's also a baseball player on the baseball team at Chestnut Ridge, which just actually finished up this week. So he's a guy that hasn't put. I don't want to say that he hasn't wrestled freestyle, but I don't think he's concentrated on it the way he has folk style. And so to go out there and play 7th, I think is a pretty good showing for him.
Yeah, I do as well. And I think that this is only going to help him in fine tuning those freestyle skills. I mean, obviously having a guy like Jody Stripmatter in your corner is going to help you fine tune your freestyle abilities, but definitely a good showing by Justin. Also at 46 kilograms, which is 101 pounds, he's an 8th grader. He'll be coming into the PIAA next season. Ryan Crookham from Hellertown, PA, which is out near the eastern part, and he's going to be going to, from what all accounts I have, he's going to Becca next season, and he's going to be just a stud when he comes through. He finished 6th at 46 kilograms.
Not a bad little pickup for Becca High there, if that's the case.
No, not at all. I mean, he's definitely the real deal, multiple-time PJW state champion. So, he's gonna slide in and fit in nicely at 106 pounds, most likely next season for them. And but overall, I was hoping obviously that Pennsylvania would get at least one guy on the Cadet World team, and they did. Obviously we wanted to see Sammy get on there as well, but. Overall, very impressed with the way Gavin wrestled and came through, and I'm excited to hear from him. Joining us now is Gavin Hoffman, a 2-time state champion from Pennsylvania. Gavin, you just had a big weekend in Akron, Ohio. Talk about that experience for you.
It was definitely it's something that I wanted to accomplish for a really long time. Ever since after the state tournament in March, I've been training, just going freestyle, just training for this tournament. So to win this and make a world team just means a lot.
It's funny, Gavin, because we talked to you at the Powerade tournament, and I remember you saying, looking forward to Akron, and that was in December.
Yeah.
So I mean, this has been on your mind for a long time, and talk about just that. What was that drive like for you to really make a world team?
Oh, yeah, definitely from watching it last year, just not being there competing, but just watching, like, all the kids who made the world team just going out there. And it's just something that I felt like just would be a great experience because how many opportunities, like, you get not only with being able to wrestle out in the world tournament, but also being able to go and train at the Olympic Training Center and get like feedback from all these like world-class guys that like have accomplished so much in the sport. So it'll not only be a great like experience, but will just be something that like is just going to make me a lot better just being around all those people.
Now, is that something you really? I mean, you've done a lot of freestyle wrestling since youth, and you've been out to Fargo. And is there something that's always really been in the back of your mind? That's like, I want to be a successful freestyle wrestler.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I started freestyle when I was young, just so the attitude of I want to wrestle after college. So in order to do that, this helps making the world team. Not like getting my name out there on like a world stage, not only the U.S. So, and just like the experience of like this will prepare me down the road for if I do make a world team or Olympic team. This will just this will be like my first experience. So if that does happen, then I'll be used to it and know what to expect.
Now, we were talking about that earlier, and this is your first. This is your first international competition. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, my first one.
So this has got. I mean, this is a huge, experience for you just to go out and experience what a world tournament is like, and wrestling against a little bit different styles with the Europeans and the Asians. So I think you're going to learn so much just from going to your first world tournament. Now, talk about, you're talking about training and learning from the most, the best world-class wrestlers. Did that have a lot to do with your decision to go to Ohio State and having a guy like Kyle Snyder, Colin Moore, who we saw at the Junior World Tournament last year, and Logan Stieber, and having those guys, that had to play a little bit of a factor in then Ohio State?
Yeah, I actually took a visit to Ohio State a little over a week ago after I committed, and I wasn't expecting much, but I went there and I got to meet with Logan Stieber and Colin Moore and Miles Martin and Kyle Snyder, and I even got to roll around with Kyle. And just from being there and also the coaching staff with Tom Ryan and Jay Jaggers and Travell Delagnev, just they all had the same mission. They all want to like create like champions and win NCAA titles. So just that alone, and then being able to watch one of their RTC and have so many great people in the room all learning from each other and pushing each other. It's just a great atmosphere and something that I want to be a part of. So
it sounds like you felt comfortable, in Ohio State, and was the recruiting process difficult for you? I know some kids will say, it's tough to say no to some guys. And did you ever feel like it was difficult for you?
Yeah, it was really tough. I know I had some officials that I really wanted to take to, Arizona State and even like Northwestern and some other schools. I was waiting to take a official, so it was hard to like tell them no, that I already made my decision, because I kind of never really gave them a chance. But I know that I did the right thing by picking Ohio State. It was definitely a lot earlier than I expected, but I feel like that down the road, this was the right choice, and there's no reason to wait to make a decision.
Yeah, it seems like when you know something, you like it, and that it just felt right, and that's pretty cool, and congratulations on going to Ohio State, and it's
oh, thank you.
It's such a great program, and obviously you embodied that just by the freestyle, and it kind of ironic that you earned the spot to go to the world team in Akron.
Yeah, it was cool. There's some of the Ohio State guys were there, like Coach Ralph and Travell, and Miles was there. So it was kind of cool it seemed kind of lucky that like Ohio is the state that the tournament was in, and
right.
we have. It's cool that I'm going to be on a team with another kid going to Ohio State, Jordan Decatur. So it's cool that me and him we're both going to Ohio State, and we both made a world team. So that just shows that Ohio State's going to hopefully have a promising future.
Absolutely, a bright future indeed. And what are you looking forward to most to going to Athens? What's it like to travel the world as a wrestler? I mean, are you looking forward to going to Greece?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just I'm kind of treating this as a learning experience, but I expect myself to do well, and I expect myself to just compete and just like be prepared to win a world title. I don't want to just go out there and expect this a learning experience, and if I lose my first match, and so what? I kind of want to go out there just the mindset to win it. So, but I'm looking forward to traveling. This is going to be my first time out of the country, so I'm looking forward just this. Yeah, so it'll be exciting just to see like different culture and like wrestling kids that I'm not familiar with. So it'll be a great learning experience.
Now, how do you prepare for something like this for a world team? I mean, I know you got a lot of time between now and then, but is there anything special that you do with like Coach Ian or with the Ohio State guys to really prepare you for the World Championship?
Yeah, it's going to be hard preparing for it because I know no one that's going to be at my weight. I never watched any of these kids wrestle, never heard of them. So it'll be difficult, but I know I have the right training. I've been training with Quentin Wright, the former two-time NCAA champ from Penn State, and he's all familiar with this, and he's been kind of just coaching me now, just teaching me for, I'll say, a little under a year, and just he knows all these high level things that are just the little things that I could tell, like from this weekend alone, that is the one thing that won me this weekend. It's just like learning all these things from him, and he's really helped me and was a huge reason why I won this weekend.
I mean, he's a pretty good guy to have in your corner. Very accomplished, very, very accomplished wrestler from Bald Eagle and Penn State, and just really a solid freestyle wrestler. So I'm sure that has, significantly improved your abilities, especially in Akron. Take us through the finals there with Carolee from Malvern. Were you familiar with him at all? I mean, I know you guys both were in sort of the same weights. Not. I wasn't really. I've never wrestled him at all. He was always at. I think he was at 82 this year, right.
So we never like met up before this, but I kind of watched film on him. I knew he had like that good pass by to a single, which he got on me once, but I was able to defend. So I just knew that I had to work my outside ties, and just pretty much I wanted to wear him down with my size advantage, just use that and just wear him down and be patient with my scores.
What was you talked about your size advantage? Was the cut down? Was it difficult? I mean, I know you weren't the biggest 95 pounder, but I mean, was it kind of tough for you?
It was difficult, but it was a lot easier than I expected because I pretty much for a month, I want to say after my last competition, Flow Nationals, I even started then. I kind of started cutting back, just started doing everything right. Just cut out all junk food, just eat really healthy, just live the right lifestyle for a little over a month. I was down to weight. I'll say the week before at NHSCA's, I was walking around maybe 193, 194. And week prior, just the week going up to weigh-ins, like the day before or 2 days out, I just kind of cut water out, and I actually weighed, I think, 185.
Okay.
So I was a little underweight, which surprised me. It's my first time ever seeing 180s, but I felt really good, and I felt like I cut the weight the right way.
Right, and that's obviously an important part to that. Moving forward, you seems like you're in every tournament. I mean, you're in Flow Nationals, you're at Virginia Beach, you're everywhere. You planning to go back out to Fargo this year?
No, I think I'm gonna skip out on Fargo just due to all the training that I'm gonna be doing. So actually Saturday, I'm leaving for Disney Duels.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll be down there for a while, just take some time off, just relax. And at the end of this month, it's actually the first time they're doing this, but they're taking it hasn't been finalized yet, but I've heard that we're doing it. They're taking the Cadet World Team out to Iran at the end of this month.
Oh, really?
To do, we're going out there the 28th through the 30th. There's a dual tournament out there with, they said so far there's 10 other countries.
Wow.
So it'll be a good dual tournament, good preparation for Worlds.
Well, that's an incredible opportunity to go out and wrestle, getting that feel for European style, Asian style, just how they're wrestling and the hand fighting. So that's, I mean, if that's if that's finalized and that goes through, I mean that's a huge thing for you. So that's pretty cool. I would rather I'd rather see you do that than go to Fargo because you've been there at Fargo and
Oh yeah.
So obviously you've got some bigger things on your plate with the world team and so what does this do for you going into your senior season? I mean, you've accomplished so much in such a short time period. What's the goals going into your senior season?
My senior season, it's I feel like I've set myself up for a great senior year. I'm gonna have no pressure going into it. I'm already committed, already found like my college for me. So I feel like the senior year is just going to be all fun for me. I have no pressure. So I'm hoping that I can finally, have an undefeated season, win Powerade, win my third state title. And after that, I'll probably try for my fourth NHSCA title and go to Flow. And then right after I graduate, head out to Ohio State and train there.
It sounds like a solid plan for you, Gavin, and it's crazy how fast it goes by. I can still remember when you were just coming up through the ranks. So it's quite an accomplishment of what you've achieved so far. So we look forward to seeing how you do it in Athens, Greece. And like you said, you're not just going there for a trip; you're going there to come home with some hardware. So. We wish you the best of luck going out there and, just representing Pennsylvania wrestling in the best of light, which you've done from day one. So, just continue to do what you do.
Thank you.
Well, Gavin, we appreciate you taking the time out and stopping in and speaking with us at the PA Power Podcast. And again, we wish you the best of luck and looking forward to seeing you soon.
Oh, definitely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Gavin.
All right. Thank you.
I appreciate Gavin taking a time out from training. He just finished up school, and he's got a whole lot on his plate, and I'm sure he's anxiously waiting to start competing and getting prepared for that World Championship come September. So we appreciate Gavin taking the time out to join us. But Eric, we've got other people to talk about as well.
We do. Not the only one to find success in Akron.
No, absolutely not. And Greco-Roman, a guy I really enjoy watching and a person that it's hard not to root for, and that's Jake Hendricks from Wyoming Seminary. He's a New Ringgold, PA native. Jake earned a spot on the Cadet World Team in Greco-Roman. He finishes first at 76 kilograms, which is 167 pounds. He was a National Prep All-American this last year as a junior for Wyoming Seminary. But, he really, I thought when he dropped his first match of the best of 3 series to Chris Faca from New Jersey, who goes to Bergen Catholic, I was kind of a little nervous, but he was able to bounce back, and he came out strong. And Greco is one of those styles where you can get a guy, you can get those big points on him, and next thing you know, the match is over.
And he did come back in a big way, not just eking out victories, as you said there, with a 10-2 win and then a fall in the third and final match. So, I mean, talk about the cliche of your back being against the wall. He's down 0-1 in matches and comes back with 2 huge wins.
Yeah, those were big for him, and he's competed in Greco a lot. Jake actually has some international experience already. He went to the Pan Am Championships, the Cadet, last summer, and he finished second in Greco and won the Freestyle Pan Am. So he's obviously a very accomplished wrestler outside of folk style, and having a guy like Coach Scott Green in his corner and helping him develop his Greco skills, it really showed this last weekend, because Jake just really turned it on when he had to, earning a few big 4-point throws. And then, like you said, in that finals, that third bout, he was able to they were almost in a 50-50 position, and Jake was able to get the turn and throw, and he ended up putting it on him, planting him on his back and earning the fall. So very big win for Jake Hendricks and qualifying for the world team.
Yeah, and it just so impresses me whenever a guy's able to do it in both styles like that. Because Greco, sometimes the guys that are really good in Greco don't find that success in the other styles because they're just sort of more suited to Greco. But you can see, as you said, with him winning the Pan Am title last year in freestyle, he was also a double All-American in Fargo. So, really well-rounded wrestler.
Oh, absolutely. Very well-rounded. And in fact, his other matches with Chris Faca were in freestyle last year in Fargo. So definitely a guy who does it all. Obviously making the world team in Greco is huge for him. So, I really think that he's going to do well when he does go to Athens, Greece. I think just based on his international experience already, this will not be a new thing for him coming up in Greece. So, definitely excited about Jake Hendricks having 2 guys on our Cadet World team with Jake and Greco, Gavin and Freestyle. And 76 kilos was actually a weight where there was a ton of PA guys there, a lot of top-end guys, including Edmund Ruth, a state champion, and Josh Stillings from Penn Ridge, who was a state runner-up. So definitely a lot of talent here, finishing in the top 8. Edmund comes back to finish 4th. At 76 kilos, and Josh Stillings comes in 5th. So very promising to see these 3 guys all finishing in the top 8.
Yeah, great showing for Pennsylvania there. To have 3 guys at 167 there, that's really impressive.
Yeah, and I know Jake and Josh have battled back and forth. They've wrestled. It's numerous times over the last couple years. Same with Edmund and Josh and Jake. These 3 have all wrestled numerous times over the last couple years. So it's nice to see them all do well in Akron. Some other medalists from the Cadet Greco World Team Trials: Julian Goring from Fort LaBeouf. He finished 7th at 85 kilos, which is 187 pounds. Julian Goring, really solid wrestler from Fort LaBeouf, younger guy that's always been competing in freestyle and Greco. So I was happy to see him finish 7th. Carter Tootle, Jake Hendricks' teammate from Wyman Seminary, he finishes 6th at 63 kilos, which is 139 pounds. And Joe Clock from Benton, who was a state medalist for Benton 2 years ago, he finishes in 8th at 58 kilos, which is 127 pounds. So overall, good showing for Pennsylvania and Greco, where Pennsylvania is not known necessarily for their Greco wrestling. Would you agree, Eric?
I would definitely agree with that, and that's what makes this so impressive to me. As you look at the list there, I think that's a really good showing by Pennsylvania, as you said, in a discipline that we're not really known for. Pennsylvania usually known, especially for folk style on the mat, some freestyle success, no doubt, but Greco is probably the one area where we're not really seen as the powerhouse that we are in the others.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last year when we went to the Junior World championships. Michael Rogers from Wyoming Seminary, who's now at NC State, he competed in the Greco World Team for Team USA in France. But historically, there hasn't been a ton of big names or headlines coming out of Pennsylvania and Greco, so it's promising, and I like to see this. And like I said, I really do think that Jake Hendricks has a very good shot in Athens, just based on his experience on the international level in both freestyle and Greco. So very excited to see how he does, and he's a special story. I remember seeing his mother passed away suddenly last year, right before the season starts. She was 47 years old. I can't imagine as a high school student what it's like to have to deal with losing one of your parents at such a young age and still go out on the mat and be focused. I mean, that really shows a lot of fortitude in a young man.
Yeah, that's got to be a really difficult situation to deal with. And kudos to Jake for being able to, I think, probably channel some of that those feelings into his wrestling. And I know a lot of times sports are a great outlet for that. Just getting a workout in, relieving some stress, taking some of those feelings and just putting into physical exertion really can be a positive in a lot of ways.
And I think it shows a lot about just the people he has around him. I'm sure, Scott Green would attest to this, but having that Wyoming Seminary family, I mean, with him there, his brothers and sisters in wrestling that are really picking him up and helping him, his family. I think the wrestling community in general is just a lot of support is poured out to people. We've seen this over the years, especially.
Yeah, it is. And I get really excited for these guys. I'm a big proponent of trying to get kids to travel as it is, whether it's wrestling or not, just going and traveling and seeing different cultures and different things, I think is wonderful for young people. And so I get excited for these guys, getting the chance to go to Athens. I mean, obviously it's a business trip in a way. They're going there to wrestle, not to sightsee, but just to get out and experience different things. As you said, he's already done it, going to Peru, now getting to go to Athens. Just great opportunities for these young men.
Yeah, wrestling does open up a lot of doors, and it really gives you a lot of opportunities, especially to a young person such as Jake Hendricks. So very, very excited about Jake. We have some other wrestlers that are going to be competing on the world stage in women's wrestling. And this is actually an interesting story because out of Upper Moreland, Caitlin and Amanda Walker, they both are going to Wyoming Seminary next year from the Upper Moreland area of Pennsylvania. But Wyoming Seminary, as most of you probably know, is creating for the first time a women's wrestling program at Wyoming Seminary, which is just phenomenal for the sport and for the state.
It is, and man, talk about some pieces to start the program with, huh? A couple world team members.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin and Amanda Walker have been two of the biggest names in Pennsylvania women's wrestling over the last several years. Caitlin Walker she's qualified for the Cadet World Team at 40 kilograms, which is 88 pounds. So she's going to be competing at the world weight at 40, and also Valerie Baker from Benton, who's been around for forever. She's wrestling at 49 kilograms, which is 107 pounds. She's going to be competing on the world team at 49 kilograms in women's wrestling. So those are two big names from Pennsylvania that will be going out. In fact, Valerie's actually on her way down to the Pan Am Games this week. I believe it's this week is when it takes place. But again, opening up a lot of doors for some young individuals from Pennsylvania.
And that's, as you said, the Wyoming Seminary program and just the growth of women's wrestling as a whole is just wonderful for the sport, because I'm sure anybody listening to this knows wrestling has been hurt by Title IX and the equal opportunity, because there hasn't been a balancing act for it in the women's side. So the more women's wrestling programs we can get, and ideally get them to NCAA level, would be much better for the sport. And if we can grow it at the youth level, and I'd love to see PIAA get women's wrestling going.
Yeah, and you said, Eric, when you lived in Hawaii for a brief period, that women's wrestling in Hawaii is very big.
It is. Hawaii actually is pretty good in terms of women's wrestling. They're not up to snuff in the boys' side of things, but they do have women's teams and a women's state tournament and all that. And so they do really well there. They've really put a lot of time and effort into it, and it shows.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, it's big for Pennsylvania just to have that program at Wyman Seminary. Looking at a girl like Valerie Baker, she's competed in high school for Benton against all the guys, and she did pretty well for herself.
She did. I remember watching her down at Powerade and going up against some pretty good boys and holding her own.
Absolutely, she does. I mean, she's been very impressive over the last several years at Benton. So, I mean, obviously wrestling on a team like Benton, I mean, she's wrestling with Joe Clock. She's wrestling with those guys that are very tough. So clearly she's getting better in that room.
And, it's interesting. We have a girl, Mariah Harris, who just won a national title at the junior level. Unfortunately, it was at a non-world weight, so she won't be going to the world championships. But she's from Johnstown, and I know her quite well. And I've talked to her before about the difference. And in some ways, it's really good to wrestle boys coming up because, they develop that toughness. When she went to Campbellsville University, where she's wrestling now, she said that in a lot of ways wrestling boys growing up was good. But then when she got there, they kind of had to say, look, you're not wrestling boys anymore. What you did there isn't what you need to do to win against the girls. You've got to adapt your style, and it's going to be different wrestling girls than it is wrestling boys. So while it's good to be able to train against those boys and learn that, there's still an adjustment period then when you get to wrestling just females.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's why we see a lot of girls peak when they go to college or get on the international national scene, is because they're surrounded by females, they're wrestling females, they're competing against females. So you see them really mature and adjust that styles where before they're going against guys who may be more physically imposing, and now you're saying, okay, you're adjusting your style. Now you're just wrestling. You're just using your skill set. So I 100% agree with you, Eric, that it's good initially to start, but if we really want to grow women's wrestling, you got to be wrestling, other girls and competing your skill, and really just honing in on your skill set.
And I'm sure just from a mental standpoint, it's difficult being a girl wrestling boys. Even if you take all the other things away, even if all your teammates are great, there are no problems there, it can be demoralizing if you're not finding the success against the boys that, as you said, as they get older and develop, it gets harder for girls to compete against boys. So if we have that where girls are competing against each other, I think you'd see a lot bigger numbers in it as well.
Yeah, I agree there as well, Eric. And we have some women's wrestlers coming up through the ranks here, so we are seeing some graduating seniors that'll be going on, like you said, Mariah Harris, Mackenzie Mata, and when the Walkers and Valerie Baker come up through. I mean, they're going to be ones to keep an eye on because they have a lot of potential to do very well. We've already seen a lot of girls do well for Pennsylvania. Samantha Klingel, Francisca Giorgio. There's a lot of areas where Pennsylvania has shined in the women's wrestling. So I'm looking forward to what the future holds for women's wrestling.
Yeah, and moving on a little bit, talking about the future and what it holds, some commitments that have been announced recently as far as the boys go.
Yeah, some big ones here, and on the big board, we're looking at it. Gavin Teasdale, the top-ranked recruit out of Pennsylvania, he's committed to Penn State. That whole saga where originally committed to Iowa with his teammate and friend Spencer Lee, and that was as a sophomore. And now he's given a verbal to Penn State. So that was a nice pickup for Penn State, considering they not only took a guy away from the rivals in the Big Ten, but they're getting a really good wrestler.
It is. I mean, huge for Penn State to get Gavin Teasdale. He's a guy that obviously has been so successful, undefeated in high school. He's got the national and international experience. Just a great pickup there for Penn State.
Yeah, and joining Gavin is Michael Beard, who is one of the most impressive wrestlers. I mean, he is just phenomenal. We saw him wrestle at Who's Number One, and Iron Man and Escape the Rock, and he's a man among boys when he's wrestling, and he's committed to Penn State. He was originally verbal to Northwestern, and the Malvern Prep junior is now going to Penn State, which is just an absolute huge pickup for them in a much needed area up in the upper weights.
Yeah, and as you said, this is another guy that, I mean, he's right at the top nationally. It's not just a great Pennsylvania wrestler. This is a guy that everybody wanted nationally, and to keep him in Pennsylvania and at Penn State is a huge coup for Cale Sanderson.
Oh my gosh, absolutely it is. And we talked about Gavin, and he's going to Ohio State. I think Ohio State could land several guys in the top 100 here. Number 2, Sammy Sasso is not committed yet. Very anxiously waiting to hear where Sammy goes. I know Ohio State's got to be right up there. I think Iowa is as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it come down between Iowa and Ohio State, maybe leaning a little bit more towards Ohio State. Trent Hidley from Mifflin County, where does he end up? His brother Hayden's down in NC State, but all the Division I guys want him as well. So, it'll be interesting to see where Trent ends up.
Yeah, I've talked to him a couple times about it. He's been pretty cagey. I know, he's obviously got ties there to NC State, but, he also has the opportunity to go to a Big Ten program and a national powerhouse probably. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there.
Cole Matthews from Reynolds, he's a state champion, a state runner-up this last year. He's a big name that people want. Cody Mulligan, state champion over this last year. He recently gave a verbal commitment to Edinboro. Having a guy like Tim Flynn, having the Edinboro Regional Training Center that's newly established there, and having a guy like Dakota Gear who he can wrestle with every day.
And see what Dakota Gear did as a true freshman there.
Exactly. So, imagine having him going against Dakota every day in the room, having a guy like Tim Flynn leading you. I think it's a great fit for Cody, just being that fact that he's from the area, he's got some connections to Edinboro. So I think he does, and I think he's kind of a little bit underrated on the national level. I think Cody's is he had a good Virginia Beach duels. He knocked off some top ranked guys. So I think Edinboro got a good one there.
And that's what Edinboro does. They find those guys that they're really good, but they might not have quite that national exposure, and they turn those guys into even better wrestlers at that level. And just amazing what Edinboro does for the size of the school and the budget restrictions and those types of things. Tim Flynn, just an outstanding coach up there.
I agree with you, Eric, 100%. And looking at some other names who has committed, Zach Hartman is going to Bucknell. He's joining his brother Mitch there. 2 teammates from Malvern Prep, PJ Crane and Chris Hissey, are both going to the Naval Academy, so they'll be going down to Navy. Tim Wallace from Albert Gallatin, he's a state third-place finisher, just narrowly missed a spot in the finals. He'll be going to Kent State. And Jared Papsey from Becca, finished 4th this last year. He'll be going to Duke. So not a whole lot of names off the board yet. It is early. It is only June, but definitely some big names that I'm very anxious to see where they go. Sammy Sasso, Trent, Cole Matthews, Josh Stillings, Jarrett Lane, Anthony Waters, Robert Patrick. The list goes on and on. So I'm really excited to see where some of these big names end up.
Yeah, there's so much talent out there, and it's going to be a popular place for recruiters, as Pennsylvania always is. But guys from all over the country are going to be coming in here and trying to land some of these guys. Yeah,
absolutely, Eric. And, it's just not – and I always like seeing the guys that, we not necessarily the big names, and they come out and they come through and they surprise everybody. So it will be somebody on this list. And when we do release the top recruits of the class of 2018, you'll see on there where they ranked as top incoming freshmen. And, you'll see some names that you're like, wow, they weren't even on the list. Now, of course, Gavin and Sammy, they were 1 and 2 in the top incoming freshmen, but and they're ranked 1 and 2 in the top recruits. But then you have, a guy like Jarrett Lane, who was number 46, or Creighton Edsel from Wyalusing, who was overlooked. So definitely I like seeing how guys have progressed, and the same can be said with college. When these guys are entering into college, how are they going to perform? How are they going to do?
Yeah, I mean, we have an idea. You have some thoughts. You can look at past performances and kind of, how they might develop. But yeah, if it was an exact science, the sport would be a lot different and a lot less exciting. The excitement part of it is seeing how these guys develop and how much better they can get.
Yeah, you're right, Eric, and that's the joy of wrestling, and we've seen that time and time again where we're expecting one thing and something else happens. And speaking of just guys doing well in college and seeing some success, and I don't know if you were able to look at and see the university nationals from Akron, but Pennsylvania fared well there with 2 champions.
Yeah, I saw, didn't see a whole lot of it. Saw the 2 champions. Congratulations to Chance Marsteller. Hopefully he's able to get his life back on track. I mean, this has to be a big step toward that, going out there and win a university nationals title.
Yeah, I mean, even though it's not a world team this year, but Chance coming out and beating some tough guys. I mean, I watched all his matches, and he was just, destroying guys. He beat Josh Shields from Franklin Regional, who's now at Arizona State. He beat him pretty well. Cole Walter from Lehigh, he had no issues with him either. So Chance, this has got to be huge for him. I mean, from all accounts that I hear, it is just that Chance is, his head's on straight. He's had a lot of support from people close to him, and I think he's motivated. I think you're going to see a Chance Marsteller that we saw before, maybe in his 8th and 9th and 10th grade years, where he's just very focused and going out there and just getting the job done. So definitely excited to see what happens with him, because he is enrolled at Lock Haven. I'm assuming that he's going to petition to try to get back on that program. Being in Lock Haven, I think he's very close with a lot of the guys there, with Coach Moore and Thomas Haynes, and I think really I think most likely we're gonna see Chance return to Lock Haven if the athletic department will allow it.
I hope that works out. He's obviously made some big mistakes. He's paid for them in some ways, but I think that hopefully, losing wrestling and having that taken away from him, hopefully that makes an impact on him. He realizes how important it was and can move forward and use that as motivation to get back into the sport and try to achieve some of that greatness that we saw as potential in him.
Yeah, I mean, and he's still got 2 years of eligibility left. I mean, I'm sure people are, if it's not Lock Haven, someone else will be able to, see the progress that he's made. And as you said, I mean, he was given an opportunity where he wasn't sentenced to any jail time, and he was, put on probation for a number of years. So he has he has a curfew. He has things that are in place where he's drug tested, and these things, obviously, we've seen guys that are in this situation and they make the same mistake a year or 6 months later. But, I think if Chance continues to do what he's doing, I think we will see him back on the mat as early as the second semester of next year, possibly. So, but you gotta root for him. I mean, he's a guy that you want to see do well. He's made mistakes, but he's definitely trying to turn the corner.
Yeah, and it's always a good story whenever a guy who has made mistakes can learn from those and move on, and that's what we hope for Chance.
Another guy who came away with a championship in Akron, and it's funny because Flo did an interview with him, and they said, "Is anyone finally going to get your name right, Jarek?" So is it Kusnek? Is it Kausenik? Which one is it, Eric?
You watch the video. You tell me.
Jarek Kausnick from he's from American. He went to Benton High School. Very good wrestler for
I always thought it was Kasunik, but
I think in the interview with Nomad, I think he said something along the lines of, "People have been getting it wrong since I've been in high school." So
in high school, it was Kasunik. So
I've butchered every name possible, unless
yes,
it's
you
Smith.
have.
I'm
Including a few on this one, maybe. But I might have butchered one this time, too. So.
I am completely used to just getting every name wrong. Just so I'm not, I'm not a very bright man, Eric. I guess that's why I'm a police officer. But no, if you look at what he did in the interview, he said, I didn't even know I was going to be competing in this. I found out a week before. Coach Teague Moore pressured and pushed him and said, "Hey, you're wrestling here." And he's a guy who's a NCAA qualifier this last year, and I actually missed him because I didn't realize he was up so heavy. I mean, he was like a 160, 170 pounder in high school, and he just won the University Nationals at 97 kilos, which is 213 pounds. So he hit a growth spurt somewhere along the way between Benton and Washington D.C.
A couple stops on the drive there, or what?
Maybe, I guess so. But looking at some other results, Miles Martin defeated Pete Renda from NC State in a thrilling match, I thought, 4-2. But you have a guy that was a NCAA champion 2 years ago, and Pete Renda, who's coming off a redshirt year, he was third, earning his first All-American finish in 2016. So this was a big matchup between Martin and Renda. Martin was able to come out on top, but very promising for Renda to finish where he did. Ryan Presh from Lehigh, former Milton wrestler, he finishes third. Dakota Gear, guy we talked about from Edinburgh, from Franklin High School, he finishes in sixth. And Alex DeSantis from North Allegheny, who's now at Drexel, he finishes in seventh. So all three of those guys were national qualifiers this last year, so it's very promising to see them do well at the University Nationals. Other place winners from the University Nationals, Ethan Lezak from Parkland, who's now at Minnesota, he finishes fifth. He was a NCAA runner-up this past year. Brock Zacharel from Brookville, who's now at Clarion, he finishes third. Nick Zanetta from Pitt, from Keystone Oaks, he finishes in sixth place, so that was big win for him to finish there. Josh Shields, as I mentioned, finishes fifth. Ian Brown from Lehigh finishes fourth, and Cole Walter finishes in sixth. So overall, a strong performance, I would say, for Pennsylvania wrestlers here at the University Nationals.
Well, just like at the high school level, whenever you have these guys and they're able to go out and wrestle at this level during the quote unquote off season, it makes a big difference because you're training year round now. It's not like it used to be where you kind of took the summer off. So everybody's training. But when you have that carrot in front of you of the University Nationals and you have a competition to gear up for, I think that training's a little different. And so I think there are positives to be taken from this, probably even from the guys that don't place out there, but just getting that experience and continuing to work and going out there and wrestling some of the best guys in the country in this atmosphere is a little different than doing it at the NCAA tournament or at your conference tournament or wherever. Speaking
of what is to come, we have the junior world team trials coming up as well as the senior world team trials, and all eyes are on the big names such as Jordan Burroughs, David Taylor, Jaden Cox. I mean, there's a lot of things to be looking forward to. Yeah, some great action coming up, and really some great things to look forward to in the wrestling. And there will be some Pennsylvania stars who are going to be competing in the senior national or senior world team trials. Jordan Oliver is one of them. Jordan Oliver won the U.S. Open, so he receives a bye into the finals. He was able to defeat Zane Rutherford and Frank Molinaro at 65 kilograms, so he'll be receiving a bye into the finals. I think there's a good chance we see him either against Zane or Frank again in the finals. Yeah, it's quite possible. I know I talked to Frank Molinaro whenever he was in Johnstown a couple weeks ago, and that's certainly somebody that he's looking to get back and try to take out Jordan. But the way Oliver looked, it's certainly a possibility that he could get one of those guys in the final, as you said, and I think he's the favorite again if he does. Yeah, I mean that match with Zane was pretty intense, pretty crazy the way it ended. But they're definitely. I mean, in that level, they're so close. They're so neck and neck, if you will. So anything, one mistake, one thing can go. And it can change the dynamics of the match. So everything, all the stars almost have to be aligned. So Jordan's already sitting in the finals, which is a big thing for him. Historically, we see a lot of the guys who are already in the finals come out on top. Other guys, Josh Kindig from Blue Mountain, he finishes third at the U.S. Open, so he'll be qualified there. Evan Henderson, former wrestler at North Carolina, now assistant coach at Campbell University. He's in there. Jason Nolf, the NCAA champion from Penn State. He's got a tough road ahead with a guy like James Green, who's just a stud there. So Chance Marsteller, guy we just talked about and who won the University Nationals, he finishes 7th at the U.S. Open, so he earns a qualifying spot in the Senior World Team Trials. And a guy, Justin Grant from Easton, he's the little known Easton wrestler here, but he finishes 6th at the U.S. Open, so he'll be in the Senior World Team Trials at 125 kilograms. So definitely a lot of potential here for Pennsylvania to do well. Jordan Oliver, Zane Rutherford, obviously some guys like Chance Marshall, Jason Nolf that are leading the pack. But if we can get one on the team, I'd say that's a pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, and Jordan definitely if we're going to get one, he's probably the most likely, already sitting there in the finals. But again, Pennsylvania, the more we can do in the international styles and keep developing there, the better. I mean, we're obviously very good in folk style, but not quite at that level maybe of dominance in freestyle. So I'd love to see the Pennsylvania guys continue to take that step at the senior level.
Looking at the junior world team trials, it's coming up as well in Lincoln, Nebraska. 60 kilograms, Luke Pletcher. I was surprised to see Luke down at 60 kilograms, which is 132 pounds. You got to remember, this is a guy who wrestled 141 his true freshman season at Ohio State. That's a mighty fine drop for him to get down to 60. But Luke's going to be in there competing. A lot of big names are going to be joining him. Austin Gomez, Jack Mueller, Mitch McKee are also there. So Luke, I think, has shown some potential, as we saw winning the U.S. Open was big for him. Looking up at some other weights, 66 kilograms, Jared Verkleeren, who was a state champion this past year, committed to Penn State. He is going to be competing at 66 kilograms. This is a guy who was a cadet world champion in freestyle. And people sometimes forget that because it seems like a long time ago, but he's obviously a guy who compete with the best of them. At 74 kilograms, Hayden Hidley, who we talked about a little bit earlier, from NC State, former Mifflin County wrestler, state champion there. He's competing at 74 kilograms. We don't know exactly all the guys who are going to be competing yet. If you go on the Flow Arena and the registered participants, a lot of times there's not going to be all the participants listed there, so we just don't know exactly what the fields look like. So
maybe you're going to get another guy like Jarek Kasnick that just shows up the week before.
Right, exactly. So you just never know. We do know that Jordan Wood, he's looking to make his second world team. He's going to be competing at 120 kilograms. We saw him last year in France compete. But a guy named Gable Stevenson is standing in his way. He defeated him at the U.S. Open. Gable's a very, very highly regarded wrestler from Apple Valley, Minnesota. He'll be going to Minnesota next season as well. In 2 years. He's going into his senior year of high school. So that's kind of a daunting task there. But Jordan Wood, obviously he has that experience. He's going to come out swinging to make that second junior world team.
Yeah, that's, as you said, very tough. Stevenson, just an unbelievable wrestler for the age level that he is. To do as well at that weight is really, really impressive.
Looking forward for us, Eric, we're making the trip out to Fargo this July. So it'll be the first time that you and I are going out to cover the Fargo nationals for PA Power Wrestling. Very excited for that. I hope you are as well.
I am. Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
There's going to be a ton of Pennsylvania studs there. I mean, this is where legends are made in Fargo. We've seen it time and time again. What names are going to come up, and we'll have a lot of things rolling into Fargo on PA Power Wrestling, looking at some previews and looking at who's going and what the big storylines will be coming up in Fargo.
Yeah, that's it's something that we were able to get into a little bit last year. We were able to go to the camp. We weren't able to make it out to Fargo itself, but this year, really looking forward to getting there and diving into all these stories, as you said.
I wish we were going to Athens, Greece as well, Eric. You may still have to try to convince me that
you find the funding. I will gladly go to Athens.
I'll see what I can do.
Maybe we can start a GoFundMe account. PA Power Wrestling fans pitch in. Send me to Athens.
Right, send me to Athens. I mean, maybe I'll set up a lemonade stand outside and see if. I mean, unfortunately, Pittsburgh Police doesn't pay me enough where I can, do all that. But we try our best, Eric. And speaking of trying our best, we are expanding. We are expanding in the podcasting realm. I'm really, really excited about the two hosts that we have coming up. They're going to be hosting a PA Power Podcast College Edition. So, instead of introducing, I'm just going to play the promo. They can formally be introduced.
You are now tuned into the PA Power Podcast College Edition, featuring Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. PA Power Wrestling. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
So as you heard from Jason Bryant from the Matt Talk Network, who we are hosted by the Matt Talk Network, and Jason Bryant introduced our two new hosts, and that's Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. Mason Beckman, a two-time All-American from Lehigh. He was a two-time state champion from Reynolds. He's currently assistant coach, and he's helping coach Jim Ackerley down at the Quest School of Wrestling. Just a phenomenal guy. I really respect him and what he's done for the sport of wrestling, and he really enjoys giving back to the sport. So I didn't have to twist his arm to come on and be a host. And Tristan Warner, this is a guy who was a three-time national qualifier down in Old Dominion. And, year after year, he was earning the top scholarships award. I mean, this was a guy who excelled in the classroom and on the mat. He's a former state runner-up from Cumberland Valley, so two very highly accomplished wrestlers, former wrestlers that are giving back to the sport by, agreeing to be hosts on the PA Power Podcast College Edition. So, Eric, I'm excited.
How awesome is this, Jeff? I mean, you and I know we try each week to break down high school and give a little bit of a look at the college, but there's just so much great wrestling in Pennsylvania. You can't condense it into an hour-long podcast because there's so much going on when you've got a Penn State here, and then you've got Edinburgh and Lehigh and Pitt and Bucknell and, all of these great college wrestling teams. There's just not enough time to get into all of it on our one podcast. So this is so great to have Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner going to be able to bring fans all this college action on a regular basis.
And let's be honest. I mean, what the heck do we know about wrestling? I mean, come on, Hey,
speak for yourself.
All right. Yeah. All right. So these, I'm just super excited about having these two young guys, young men on our podcast. And they'll be hosting their first show coming up pretty soon. Stay tuned for that. But overall, big things for PA Power Wrestling. I'm excited, Eric. I know it's been a little while since we've been on the air, but we've got big things coming with Fargo and that college podcast coming your way.
Yeah, going to be good stuff. We look to keep bringing the great fans of Pennsylvania as much wrestling action as we can.
Absolutely, Eric. That's why we do it. And we appreciate you joining us on the PA Power Podcast. I want to thank our guest, Gavin Hoffman, and wish him the best of luck in Athens, Greece at the World Championships. And stay tuned for all your wrestling news, including coverage of the junior and senior world team trials coming up, as well as a preview for the Fargo Nationals that Eric and I will be going to. Visit PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, and check us out on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in.